What is going on, everybody? It's your boy John, and welcome back to Gearbox. So today we are in the F-150 Raptor, getting a little bit of windshield time here. My wife and I decided to go down to Destin, Florida this weekend. She's staying back there. I'm headed back to South Carolina, and we're just beating up I-85. And yes, I know my windshield is filthy. I decided to run into the biggest swarm of God knows what bug at about, I don't know, 70 miles an hour, and now the truck is absolutely peppered. But since we have this windshield time, I said, what the heck? Let's pick up the camera and let's talk about a topic that I know every single person who clicked on this video, if you are even the least bit interested in cars or just the automotive space in general, have thought of. That topic, of course, title, thumbnail, you know the spiel. We're talking about, if money wasn't an object, what would be your top 5 kind of dream cars to have in your garage? Now, I've run through this scenario about 20 million thousand times, and so I do want to put a stipulation on this, that these are going to be road legal vehicles. No particular order here. It's kind of obviously a tough subject just because there's so many cars. If it were up to me, I would own every car known to man and just try them all out. But based on my experience in some cases, and in other cases just what I've read or heard about, this is going to be my top 5 list. So without further ado, let's get into number 1. Number 1 on this list is a car that I have actually had the pleasure of driving both on the street and on track, and it's going to be the Porsche GT2 RS. Now, as far as years and stuff, I would go probably 2019, 2020, something like that, just because that's the year that I drove. But when talking about this car, I actually just scrolled across something on either Instagram or YouTube Shorts or something like that, and I forget who said it, but it rings extremely true. What this individual said was, before I ever drove a Porsche, everyone had, oh, Porsche, it's so good, this, that, and the other. But if you haven't driven one, you don't really understand the weight of what Porsche has to offer until you actually drive one. And it just starts to make sense as far as why they are so good. They're really unmatched in a lot of different ways, especially if you've driven them on track. And this was the case for me. My wife and I will take a trip out to Vegas, typically once a year. And I always go out to Speed Vegas and try to drive a car or two and just get the experience of driving all of these different cars. And of course, the GT2 RS was high on my list. Now, why the GT2 over the GT3? I prefer turbo vehicles. I'm sure the GT3 RS is just as good, but I like forced induction, so that's what we went with. And we absolutely killed it on the track. And I'm sure, the instructor's saying what he's saying just to pump me up and get me back in the car. I get that. But my own personal feeling, having done it maybe 3 or 4 times prior, I felt so locked in with this car and driving on this track. I was so confident, and ultimately that's what gave me the bug to start, the idea of track driving in the Supra. I had so much fun. The interior is sleek. Obviously the engineering as far as the suspension and the engine and, all the sounds and everything. It's a magnificent platform. And the best part of it is you can drive it on the street and, ball out going downtown or whatever. But you can also throw it on the track from factory and it will kick everyone's ass. Definitely has to be on the list, the Porsche GT2 RS. For number 2 on this list, we're going on a similar vein, right? As far as kind of a supercar type of thing, I don't know. Number 2 is going to be a Ferrari 458. You could also throw in there a 488 as well. But the 458 for me was one of those cars where it hit me at the perfect age I've always, for one reason or another, been partial to Ferrari over Lamborghini. Not to say that Lamborghini's bad. I've driven some as well, and they are awesome cars. But the sound that stereotypically comes out of a Ferrari is just intoxicating to me. And I think the 458, between the power plant in that car, as well as just the styling. You know, at this point, that car is not exactly the newest car out there, but it's still such a timeless design. The interior is modern enough, but still has some of that analog feel to it. I think it is the perfect culmination of old versus new at this point in time in 2025. And I think that would be just an absolutely amazing car to own. Of course, Ferrari is going to turn the head of pretty much anyone that you drive by. Not that that's necessarily the goal, but it does come with the territory when you start driving that type of vehicle. I've driven a 360 Spider before, which of course is a 458 adjacent type of vehicle, and had an absolute blast. I think the 458, if I ever got the chance to drive one, would just be a dream come true. So we'll see, maybe one day, but that's definitely going to be number 2 on my list. On to number 3 on my top 5 list of cars, money not being an object, that would be in my garage for sure. For number 3, we're going to go with a little more of a practical vehicle. And essentially, we're sitting right in one, except we're going to go with the new Raptor R. Right now, we are in a base Raptor, 3.5 EcoBoost, twin turbo. I would love to experience a Raptor R. I already love this truck. Really, at that point, we're just changing up the engine, more or less. And so that's why I went with the Raptor R. But in terms of what I've experienced with this truck, I love it. Like, I genuinely have no complaints for this truck. It does everything awesome that I ask for it to do. It's super comfortable. It's got all the technology. There's honestly, not a thing that I would change about this truck. I am the first person to buy a car and then just start modding it right off the rip, and my wife gets pissed about it. But this truck, she's literally asked me, she's like, "John, are you okay? Like, you're not doing anything to it." I'm like, "Yeah, it's perfect." And I'm sure the same thing would apply to the Raptor R, since we're just talking about a new engine. I need a truck, I tow, I haul, I do all these sort of things, and just road tripping like we're doing now. You need a practical vehicle on this list, in my humble opinion. And so that's what we're going to put on the list for number 3, a Raptor R F-150. Moving on to the 4th spot on my list, we're going to change it up big time. This is not something I've ever really even talked about on this channel, and that's going to classic cars. No, I would not be touted as a super fan of classics. I think classics are great and I appreciate them, but it's not something that gets me up in the morning, or, I know all the specs, the ins and outs and whatever on them. I appreciate them, but it's not something that excites me necessarily, except for this car and maybe a handful of others out there for sure. But what we're talking about here is specifically a 69 Dodge Charger. Now, a 69 Charger obviously is a very, very popular classic car, and of course the prices on those damn things sure do reflect the popularity in the general market today. For whatever reason, the 69 Charger to me has the perfect body lines of a classic. Yes, it's a big boat. Yes, you can make a ton of power. You could just use it as a simple weekend cruiser, roll down the windows, do your own thing, go grocery shopping, whatever. You could also throw a blower on it and drag radials and smoke a shit ton of people at the drag strip, and really anything in between. Specifically, a black 69 Dodge Charger. Yes, we're taking some inspiration off of the Fast and the Furious and all that sort of stuff. But I just think that car would be so damn fun to own. I've never had the pleasure of driving one. I have driven some other classics. Probably most comparable would be a early 70s Camaro. And I really enjoyed driving that Camaro. But for some reason, having never driven it, having not really done a whole lot of research on it, to be honest with you, a Dodge Charger just screams American muscle to me and seems like a definitely worthwhile vehicle to put in the 4 spot on my list. And last but certainly not least on this list, in the number 5 spot, I thought long and hard about this. We've covered extreme practicality, in my opinion, with the trucks. We've done extreme sports cars. We've done the classics. I think for the number 5 spot here, we're gonna go with an Audi RS6 Avant. Now, hear me out. I've always loved wagons. Now, have I ever owned a wagon? No. But do I love the idea of owning a wagon? Yes. Do I also enjoy owning and operating extremely fast and sporty cars? Also, yes. Put those together into basically the sleeper of all sleepers. And you could also throw in here the new M5 wagon as well from BMW. So maybe this is a 5A and 5B. But something about driving a newer sports wagon, I guess you could call it, just, I don't know, is intriguing to me. I think it has the best of both worlds when you need practicality to go wherever or do whatever it is that you're doing. I don't have kids or anything, but you know, if you have kids or maybe you're going downtown with a group of friends or whatever, but you also want to look cool while doing it, and maybe, just maybe, go to Mexico and have a little fun with it. I think the, you know, RS6 wagon / M5 wagon fits the bill there. Now, on top of that, what I really enjoy about those two platforms in particular is the aftermarket support for them. Now, in a perfect world, if this list came true, would I mod the shit out of either of those cars? I would venture to say probably not, even though I probably would if we're being honest with ourselves. But, you know, having that kind of executive OEM plus, you know, maybe get some wheels, maybe get a little better exhaust, but you're not going to be tweaking anything crazy with the engine or doing anything just stupid. Really just making it as sleek and classy as possible, I think would be a super cool car to own. And once again, you know, both of those vehicles come brand new with all the technology in the world, extreme comfort in mind, plus the performance aspect of it, plus the aesthetics of it. I really don't think it gets any better than that. I don't know. Have I had the pleasure of driving one? No. Have I driven, you know, a couple Audis in my day, including an R8? Yes. And I really like Audis and BMWs, probably equally. But I think the RS6 Avant has a very special place in my heart and a special place in the market today. The wagons are making a comeback here in the States, which I am super excited about, but on aggregate are not super popular here in the States like they are in Europe and other places in the world. But once again, I do think it would be a really cool car to own, and that would be a great way to round out this list of 5 cars. So guys, that is going to do it for another episode of Gearbox. I would love to hear your top 5 list of road legal cars down in the comments below. If you have any cars that you think I missed, or maybe, you know, you would replace in my list, drop them down there below as well. If you like this video, please give it a big fat thumbs up. And as always, guys, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. You know the drill. Until next time, peace.